I'm joined now by our special correspondent Alex Crawford, who's followed this case right from the start, and of course Llewelyn, Curlewis, our South African legal expert, who's guided us throughout the trial. Evening to you both. Alex, in an extraordinary day, drama, twists and turns. We couldn't really have predicted this day, and at the end of it, quite a lot of controversy surrounding the judgment so far and the way this case has turned.
A lot of controversy, mainly because most of the legal experts that everyone consulted beforehand and was asked to give their sort of prediction of what would happen, all said that they felt that there was enough had been done to find a conviction on murder. And when the judge very early on seemed to throw out all the main pillars that the state was centering its case on, that seemed to indicate that there wasn't going to be a murder conviction. And the Pistorius family were clearly very, very, very tense. And although all the way along, his uncle, Arnold Pistorius, the whole family has been very doggedly defending him and saying that the truth will out, even as they arrived this morning, and saying that they stood by him and it was all a mistake and he would eventually be found not guilty. There was an absolute sort of almost breaking down, certainly of Oscar Pistorius himself, as he realised the judge was going to find him not guilty of murder. He started sobbing and heaving, and the whole of that bench, the Pistorius family bench, were overcome with relief.
I assume that was in some contrast to the Steenkamp family just a few feet away.
Certainly the friends of Reeva Steenkamp were terribly emotional, but it's very difficult to decipher what June and Barry Steenkamp were feeling, because they didn't show much emotion. They seemed to be almost stunned. I mean, really stunned. And when I was speaking to some of Reeva Steenkamp's closest friends, girlfriends, they also were very stunned. I mean, a number of them took a while to even respond to me, and very, very tearful. They told me they felt very disappointed, and certainly when I spoke to them a few days ago, they were absolutely certain that he was going to be found guilty of murder. So that is the controversy, I think.
Llewelyn, you felt the judge had followed the letter of the law pretty carefully, and yet certainly I'm detecting a little bit of chatter behind the scenes from the legal community.
Yeah, definitely there will be a lot of talk about the decision, whether there was compliance to what we call in the legal jargon dolus eventualis, and whether that was proven by the state beyond reasonable doubt or not. From the outset, premeditated murder was not on the table. On par with that, from the outset, dolus directus, in other words, direct intent, was never on the table. So the only real issue to be determined from a legal perspective was the question of intent by means of dolus eventualis, what the talk is all about the whole day. But my personal view was from the outset, Barry Roon and the defence team should have came out probably maybe suggesting that culpable homicide, maybe given a plea on culpable homicide from the outset. That could have saved us months on end, taxpayers' money and everything associated with it. But the moment they put their defence all or nothing approach on in the trial, then suddenly they were obliged at some stage to call Oscar Pistorius to the witness stand. And the moment that came about, that's where the trouble for the defence started. And suddenly murder was up there to be considered. From the outset, it shouldn't even have been there. But the moment he came under cross-examination, he was a terrible witness. And that was the finding of the judge as well. And that adds on to the problem and the debate. Because suddenly, on the one hand, the judge declared him a total unreliable witness, a liar under oath, etc., unreliable, and so on. And simultaneously, despite that, without corroborating other evidence to support her finding, she said, acquitted on murder. And that is the legal argument, that is the crisp question, and we will see a lot of debate on that as well. And that might also come into play if a possible appeal will follow later on.
Yes, I would imagine that opens the door to possible appeals.